All right, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Philosophy Culture. Back here again with the Big Bro Podcast Broadcasting.
And I'm here back again with the podcast bro and big bro Emils.
Yeah, what's
Yeah,
up?
what's up?
And yeah, today we're going to talk about one of the most important human beings in history, especially in the history of Europe, which is where we live, and that is Napoleon.
Exactly. And we
Yeah,
will also give you some brief introduction about his history and background. And we will also discuss some ideas and events that we found interesting.
for sure. Hey, check it out. So we can start off by the classic question, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think this episode is important? Yeah.
I think it's important because no, but I mean, I think Napoleon played a huge role in the French history, or actually in the overall history, like uh, that is including the entire world, sort of. And he was, well, now we used to speak about founders, but he's some kind of founder if you think about it, like basically. All right, so he managed to sort of expand the French empire. Um, and yeah, he was a great. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about like how to sort of connect it or relate it to today's entrepreneurs, if you want to call it that way. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I think that he had some really good like sort of traits that you could even find in today's entrepreneurs, or and exactly as David Senra said, um, there are still living Napoleons, so to say. Not exactly by conquering the world, but they are actually conquering the world with their sort of companies or what they do. Um, so yeah.
That's really fascinating. I watched a video today
Yeah.
um, of this guy. I can't pronounce his name, but I guess he's some sort of guy who is like also writing something. I don't know, maybe he's a writer or like a philosophy guy. But
Okay.
he said kind of what you said there, that there's actually a Napoleon in all of us, and he was like more so thinking or pointing out the cruelty humans had. He kind of had like a really cynical view of the world and humankind and nature and stuff. So yeah, so whatever, doesn't matter.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Uh,
But
but if I return the question to you,
why
why?
I think
Yeah, why is it important to talk about Napoleon?
so, I actually prepared somewhat my answer to this question when we
Okay.
were talking when we were talking about the palace of the Louvre. I don't know.
Yeah.
I messed the name up, but yeah. Before we started to record this, so I wanted to bring up two things. I will kind of what you call it. I don't know, but like say I quote incorrectly, but like it's from Charlie Munger, which I picked up during this week. Uh, yeah, it was like a quote from him on history in general. That if you don't learn history, then you kind of go through life as a child. It was something like along those lines from Charlie Munger. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have some, I have something to add to that. No, but in David Senra's episode, he mentioned that Napoleon was actually learning from the history, and he even said that people are not smart enough and they are not like reading and learning the history because the history is kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a parenthesis.
exactly. And I think we will come back to that actually
Yeah.
during the discussion. But yeah, and I just as a important parenthesis, we want to wish Charlie Munger rest in peace because he died like this week, right?
Yeah.
So even though we are just beginning to learn about these awesome human beings as Charlie Munger and so forth, we recognize that he was a truly great man. So yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
But yeah, jumping back to my answer to the question why I think this episode is important is so my second point is that in the Founders podcast, which we have fallen in love with now, there are David Sternroth brings up all these entrepreneurs who have studied Napoleon. So we have Rockefeller, we have Steve Jobs, we have there's a lot of entrepreneurs who have studied Napoleon as well. So I think it's a no-brainer to study or dive into the life of Napoleon ourselves. And as you said, it's just a major part of history, European history, and it will be really nice to go back to Paris once again when we have just more knowledge in general, and naturally appreciate the architecture and the art and stuff like that. So this is an important episode for sure.
Exactly, and that's what we also discussed before the episode, right? That you appreciate a certain place so much more if you know its history and what has happened there, and everything that sort of put the print on that certain location or place or wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think everyone has the time and desire to do that before going to a place, but I think especially France, and Italy as well, Spain. Well, I could almost say like everywhere in Europe you will find some kind of historical place that is actually worth knowing something about. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would even say all over the world, right? Like because so many of the cultural, what you call it? What was this name? These important places is a really ugly word to use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So many of those places, statues, buildings have really some kind of historical context to them. So for sure.
Exactly.
For sure. So all right. So shall we just do a somewhat short introduction to Napoleon, like of his life story?
Yeah.
Try to not to make it too long, and then we can just pick some moments or from his life that we want to discuss, and let's see where the conversation flows.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
So you want to begin?
Sure. Why not? But yeah. So Napoleon, he was born actually in Ajaccio. I don't know how you pronounce that.
You actually said it right. You actually said it right because I looked it up how you pronounce the city. So it is Ajaccio.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Ajaccio in Corsica.
Yeah.
In 1769. And so he was basically born there, and then as he grew up, he eventually moved to the mainland of France to study, where he also began his studies in it was a military school, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from there, like after he graduated, he started to, or he was given some responsibility of some main or battalions, I think they were called, to be more, yeah. And so he won different sort of battles, and he made like some proper steps forward, making more people believe in him, and yeah, soldiers and so on. So he won other people's trust, and he soon got to um, be a general, right? So he
Yeah,
was given the role of a general at the age of 24, so he was quite young by then as well. Um, and yeah, from there, he basically, I don't know, you can jump in if I miss
yeah, yeah.
anything.
I wanna mention the French Revolution, which I
Oh,
think really propelled
oh yeah,
his like position, some sort of like his status, let's say,
yeah.
because I think he really used the chaos of the French Revolution to his advantage.
But was that after he became a general or before?
Uh, you know what? I will be honest. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think he had some sort of status already before
yeah, because I
the
remember that.
revolution because of the movie, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
I'm thinking
exactly.
about the movie, like the newest Napoleon movie, because like it starts off by him already kind of being among the kind of, yeah, men who have a status, right?
Yeah,
He isn't like some nobody from the streets.
exactly.
So that is kind of what I'm gonna base my assumptions on.
Yeah, but I guess like after he finished his school, uh, yeah, after he finished school, I think he was like, as you said, I think he got involved into sort of military and political
Uh,
sort of
Yeah,
um, sort of what how should you
just
call it?
just just politics.
Yeah, just politics and yeah, just politics like quite early in his life.
Yeah,
Um, and if I'm not mistaken, he was also involved in some kind of like on Corsica. After he graduated, there was some kind of uh, revolution or like mini sort of
there was like this intense
situation.
situation. Yeah, because they
Yeah.
were discussing or debating more so if Corsica would be independent from France, right?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah,
if
yeah,
it should like be a part of the
France.
French yeah, empire or
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
so that was like the main thing, and I think his family was on the side on, or they were supporting that Corsica would be a part of France, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think eventually, like now that we are since like now that we're talking about his family, I think his father died quite early as well, like while he was in school.
Yeah, but I think you maybe are kind of going off the tracks if you want to
Yeah,
like summarize Napoleon.
I'm going back. Yeah, I'm going back now. Okay. Yeah. So French Revolution. Okay. So as you said, yeah, continue. You had something you wanted to say.
uh like maybe we can just summarize it like quite quickly. Like after the
Okay.
French Revolution, he won like more and more wars, which kind of he kind of rose through the ranks, let's say, in the military, and yeah, became the emperor, right?
Exactly. He crowned himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Uh, and then we have some more wars. Then we have the Russian War, which he fails quite miserably at because the Russians had a really good tactic to evade the head-on collision with the French uh, major army. and kind of yeah, just which was one of the reasons that led to Napoleon's demise, right? And on top of that, he had some health issues going on, which also didn't help, let's say. And yeah, from then on, he was how do you say
Exiled. Yeah.
exiled, right, to this island Elba. Then he made a return to France. He, I think he won some wars initially, but then he lost some wars again, and was exiled again to Saint Helena, right?
Yeah.
An island that is like located at the west of Africa, if I'm not mistaken, like
Yeah.
and like 2,000 kilometers from any sort of land. So quite no, like nowhere.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's a basic summary of Napoleon. Of course, there are a lot of details in between all of those events, but yeah, that's a main summarization of kind of his story, right?
Yeah, I think we will go through some details, like when we're going through some main points or like some main things that stood out to us. So
Yeah. So, do you have any events that you wanna bring up now, like initially?
I have some points in mind, but I will just start with the main one, like
Mm?
which is kind of general, but just it includes his sort of personality as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was that like he was so addicted into making France like a world power.
Yeah,
Um, and I was just thinking, like he was exiled like after the Russian war, which wasn't actually a war; it was a sort of catastrophe in the end. Uh, anyway, um, he was exiled to Elba, and after being there for like 1 year, he returned back, reclaimed his position as a king or
emperor.
emperor, yeah, and then failed again in the battle of whoa, wow, in the battle of come on, this is the
Right. No, I should know this as well.
something with W, Waterloo.
Waterloo, yeah, right. Yeah.
Uh, and then he was exiled again to Santa Helena, as you mentioned, where he died like 51 years old.
Yeah.
Um, but he felt like he did everything for his sort of country just to, yeah, see France on top of the world. And even in the movie, okay, so just to make this clear for like everyone that is watching, we are basing our sort of episode on the Napoleon movie that had a premiere here maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago,
Uh
and some okay, not everything. We are
are
not okay, but we are referring some stuff to it.
like we have three things. It's
Yeah.
it's David Sendra's episode on Napoleon.
Yes.
I have listened to both of them because he
Yeah. Same
made
here.
two.
Same here.
Then we also have found this really nice kind of article of like this timeline of Napoleon's life, right?
Yeah.
From this website, www or like Napoleon.org, the W part. And then we have some visual, let's say more so visual like information
Yeah.
from the Napoleon movie
Exactly. So we are sort of referring back and forth between those three uh,
sources.
sources. Exactly. Um, I know, like, yeah, when it came to like in the movie, you could see that he's eventually divorcing his wife Josephine because she couldn't give birth, or yeah, he couldn't have a sort of child with him, right? And
Yeah,
so yeah, and because she couldn't give him a boy, they just decided, and it felt like it was more formal that they decided to sort of divorce, because after their divorce they still like they were still sort of in love with each other, and they still uh, were in touch like all of the time, writing letters and so on. But yeah, it felt like he did that, and I think he was also forced by his mother to do that, just because
Uh,
it felt like the divorce was entirely based on that, his wife couldn't give him a child that could, bear the sort of his legacy like forward, and
yeah.
his sort of belief in making France like on top of the world.
Okay, but like, what's your like main point? Because you kind of went from the war to the divorce.
No, but, no, but the whole thing would be that he did so many things just for France, sort of. Like he
Right, right,
divorced his
right.
wife, yeah, just for France, because he couldn't, yeah, she couldn't give him a child that could be his successor. And then, wars and exile and coming back and stuff, back and forth.
Right, right, right. So your point is that
So my point is just, yeah, it's just so interesting to see how sort of addicted he was to making France this powerful state.
right, right, right. Yeah, 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 definitely. And I would for sure like he really loved France, but I think it's also like said in some biographies and like yeah, that he wanted to like rule the world. It wasn't only like yeah. Well, I guess yeah, I guess it was France to like make like France this global empire, right? That was kind of his goal, I would assume.
Yeah,
What like it looks like uh at a lot of times.
yeah.
So for sure, yeah. And I saw this really interesting like I heard this really interesting like explanation of Napoleon, which was like this he's the human embodiment of a human like truly focusing on one thing, like a one goal throughout his life. It was like really interesting because I don't think he did anything else with his life, to be honest. Like he, like you mentioned in the beginning, when he was younger, he had like was like this kid with the core Corsican accent with the like
Mm.
in his French, right? So he was like quite uh which kind of was one of his quirks, if I may. And then also he had this solitary kind of nature. He wanted to be alone, right? And so what he did with his alone time was he read a lot.
Mm.
I assume that it was one of his main activities. So, uh, which then led to, yeah, him being really smart with war tactics and also with information. He actually, I have this interesting point, which also David Sandra brought up, was that it was like during one of his campaigns. I think it was actually the first Italian campaign, right? So he founded two newspapers to kind of spread like this propaganda of how well he's doing. So one newspaper was called Le Courrier de l'Armée d'Italie. So I guess it was like a newspaper in Italy, right? And the other was La France Vue de l'Armée d'Italie. So I'm confused why it's Italy. Like I have like copy pasted this from Napoleon.org website, so I guess they are correct, but I'm confused why it's Italy in the both names. But whatever. So he had like these two newspapers where he like was kind of advertising and kind of telling the French nation how well he was doing, and so he was a truly like, yes, a smart man, like which you become when you read. So uh, that's definitely one aspect of his personality, or yeah, one of his hobbies, let's say, that you can really learn from, to read a
Yeah.
lot. And yeah, so for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so your point. Do you have any points?
My point.
Yeah.
I want to bring up the Egyptian expedition,
Okay.
which was the during or in 1798. And so it's said that the directory, is that how you pronounce the name, or like the word directory, directory?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, whatever. They sent Napoleon to Egypt to combat England's growing commercial influence in the area. So that was the end goal for the mission, as I suppose, which they ended up losing because the British like blocked off their ships, and so they kind of destroyed the French in that battle. But what I really found cool was that during that expedition, so Napoleon, or yeah, the French brought with them like scientists and like what you call these people, who archaeologists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so during that expedition, they found the Rosetta Stone. Do you know what it is?
The
It's
what?
like the Rosetta Stone,
No idea.
which was a really really important like ar- archaeological finding. I assume I said it correctly, which was like this really important stone who had like these really uh, ancient Egyptian like writings on it.
Yeah.
And with that stone, it was like written in two languages. It was written in like ancient Greek, I think, which people then still had knowledge of, and
Wow.
then it was like written in like really ancient Egyptian, and which was like really really old, and people had like, I assume, totally forgotten of this Egyptian. Well, like it was like this word for it, hieroglyphs. I don't know how you pronounce that word, but uh, at least with that stone, they could gain back the really like old, or like some of the ancient Egyptian language, like with these yeah, from the stone. So it was a really important archaeological finding, and I think during that expedition they even like yeah, discovered some other stuff like in Egypt, like because like they have these pyramids, and I assume they yeah, got even more interesting stuff from that expedition. So I think it's was a yeah, it was a event that I find interesting for sure.
I think the interesting thing in that is that we are looking at Napoleon and so on as part of the history, but they in their turn have sort of like history, like they had archaeologists that were like looking and finding stuff based on like, I don't know, thousands years ago. Do you see where I'm going, or am I confusing now?
You mean that you find it cool that the French had archaeologists and
Yeah,
people like that.
yeah, during that time, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because now we're looking at like Napoleon, like, yeah, it was how many years ago? Let's say 200 years ago, and they had at that time archaeologists that were like looking for stuff that happened. Yeah, far
Yeah,
more back. Yeah,
for sure. And I think I like that you highlighted that point because it kind of brings up even a more diverse like picture. Because when we hear of Napoleon and like hear of his name, we think of like wars, this emperor, France as like being this um, giant giant what's the word, empire, let's say.
Mhm.
But there's so many other aspects to it
Yeah.
because we have, now that you highlighted like the archaeologists, the findings, and like scientists, and it Napoleon transformed like the world in many other ways as well. Like we have the museum. He actually also like rewrote the I'm not sure if I dare say the Constitution, uh, but yeah, some really like important rules in France that are still intact till this day. So, uh, yeah, so they had like really yeah, more aspects to it for sure.
He even founded a museum in his palace in called Louvre, right? Palace du Louvre or something like that. He
Well,
had
yeah,
some.
I think he uh yeah, the Museum Central des Arts was
Yeah.
created, which was situated in Palace du Louvre.
If there are any French people watching this, we are getting so many
Well,
critics.
keep watching. I will get better at my French pronunciation. So hey,
Yeah.
and if you want to help me out with the French pronunciation, write down in the comments.
Exactly. Yeah.
But and also if you have I'm sure a lot of other French people have much more solid knowledge of Napoleon and stuff and the history of France as well. So if you find that we are talking a lot of BS, correct us in the comments because we only wish to learn. So yeah, so yeah, but yeah,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
the Louvre, which kind of elevated the status of arts, music and stuff like that. So I think he bettered or really improved just the nation as a whole in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I will see if I can find
Based on that, I have another point.
yeah.
But maybe you want to find whatever
No, no,
you,
no, no.
you,
You
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 can.
can go ahead.
Okay. No. You said that he was improving the empire or the nation, uh,
Or just France.
or just France. Yeah. Which I kind of or yeah, I kind of agree with based on the things we have like read about and listened about and so on. Um, but there were obviously some perks in the sense that the empire was like growing so much. I think David Senra said it.
I think you said that the wrong word. Perks are like benefits.
Cons so, or like yeah like negative sides.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Um, um,
Yeah, the
in
emperor
a
the
sense,
emperor grew so fast grew so
yeah,
fast.
the empire grew so fast, so yeah, so fast that it sort of was unstable. I mean, there was still like inflation and some other problems they were like fighting with. Um, I was just thinking like if you have any thoughts on that, because it felt like sure Napoleon wanted to become this great emperor of the world, um, and he kept like conquering different countries or like parts of Europe. But at the same time, the whole nation grew kind of unstable, right? So they were still it felt like the way he said it in the episode, they sort of they couldn't control the entire empire like 100% properly.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, like, and connecting this to a sort of business in today's world, like when you don't have a
Wait, so like,
stable.
what did you like want me to comment on?
Oh no, about the thing that it didn't, like, the French Empire didn't have a solid foundation
Right, right,
as it
right.
grew bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay,
I was just thinking about connecting it to today's sort of businesses and companies that,
okay.
and, maybe emphasizing that it's like really important to have a solid foundation before you start expanding and growing. Maybe.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you have any comments or thoughts about it.
Yeah, I actually do. So while you were talking, I wasn't like 100% focused on you, so I apologize. But I
No
was
worries.
I was actually looking up when you were talking about this like unstable foundation.
Yes.
Wait, so I think he was the one who invented the blitz like technique during the war, right? Like when you really
Yes.
like so I think that might be one component of the unstable foundation. Because if you I'm no expert on like wars and battles, but if you really quickly like attack and like overtake, let's say a large amount of land, like a big plot of land, I think you miss out on controlling every part.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that is kind of what I assume, which can also like lead to not everybody being totally on board of this French like occupation. Let's say I don't have like any country or plot of land, especially like specifically in mind, but uh, that is kind of where my thoughts go. That which could be an aspect of what you were saying.
Yeah.
And also during that time we had the British, like it wasn't a peaceful time.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly. It's just,
it seemed like so that might also be a pretty big like, component of it all.
yeah. It felt more like they were like expanding and expanding at the same time, battling the British on one side and having sometimes troubles with the Austrian and the Russian sort of Tsar. And so it felt like the whole thing, like, sure, he managed to expand it and, win a lot of battles, but in the end, he didn't have that solid foundation to build his empire on. Um, as it
Uh,
was, yeah,
yeah, as it was.
as it was like, it felt so like, how should I put it in a sort of more understandable way? Maybe like patience could be one of the, he didn't have the patience to sort of, yeah, let's build the foundation, like let's make the whole thing work first and deal with each sort of, let's fix the sort of Russian problems first and then deal with the British, or like make some sort of what would you call it, coalition with the Russians, which I think they even had
Yeah, they had
for a
like
certain amount of
they had
time.
like a peace treaty.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, exactly, peace treaty. Yeah,
yeah,
it wasn't actually a coalition, but yeah, a peace treaty.
which then the Russians violated, which ended up
Yeah.
causing this iconic war between
Yeah.
Russia and France, if I'm not mistaken. Which
Yeah.
yeah,
The thing
but
that,
yeah,
yeah, I think Napoleon was also furious on Russia and chose to attack Russia because they actually made a treaty, or like sort of a contract, to sort of create a blockade on uh, on Great Britain.
Wait. That the Russians and the French
Yeah, they were
create
like,
like a blockade.
yeah, exactly, to stop like all the supplies of goods and so on from Great Britain. And then after a certain amount of time, Russia broke that agreement, and they actually started,
Cooperating.
cooperating with the British again.
Right.
So that's when like Napoleon completely lost it and chose to invade Moscow. Moscow.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, what was my point? Uh, and now we
Uh,
took it like to another side of the whole thing.
Unstable foundation.
Yeah, unstable foundation, and yeah, uh,
I think you just elaborated on my comment.
yeah, maybe that's what I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, but yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
But that's actually a good question. Like, for me, who is not, who doesn't really know that much about this Napoleon thing yet, because I truly feel like this is just a introduction.
I think
Just
we're both in the same pot. Yeah,
yeah. Because for sure we talked about Napoleon in school and stuff, but for me, I have totally forgotten most of the things that we talked about then, because the interest wasn't really there for me. So yeah, I truly feel like I'm really green. Let's just say that. So one of the questions for me is, yeah, it's I wonder how it really fell apart, like the entire like empire, uh, because for sure it was like his losses, right? During like yeah some battles, but then I'm sure he didn't have all of the support in France either, because as we see when he is exiled to Elba, we have a new king that comes in place. So I assume that king isn't a big fan of Napoleon.
yeah,
So we had these. Well, like yeah, it makes total sense because we have. I think the right name is anarchs, like these, like the official like royalty people.
Hmm.
And I think yeah, all throughout his life, we had these royals royalty people who didn't really like genuinely appreciate Napoleon because he didn't come from a royal family. Like, and we even heard it in the movie. Um, it was somebody, I don't know who who he was, but it was said like that he just was a European thug or something like that, right? Maybe you remember. It was during this private like discussion between like two Napoleon and some other guy. I don't know, but like yeah, and it's also said in the uh, founders podcast that he wasn't really a part of the royals.
Yeah,
So I think he always had some backstabbers, even like in Paris, which he wanted to make like the capital of the world, right?
yeah, exactly. But I think everyone that has like is in that sort of position will have, and like will always have some kind of backstabbers that are not actually going with the flow, and are just there, to go against, or yeah, doesn't accept their rules or way of doing things.
for sure. But like, couldn't Napoleon have like kind of neutralized? That's a really yeah, a really strong euphemism of me.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, of saying that he could have, you know, I don't know, gotten written of the as like the people who he knew weren't loyal or whatever. Like I don't know. Couldn't he like had kind of made his position like more solid as an emperor?
mm,
I'm thinking. I don't know, but
yeah,
it was also like said that when he was exiled the second time on the Saint Helena or Saint Helen, I'm not sure, but during that time he also contemplated like of yeah the mistakes he had made. So I'm really interesting of I'm interested if there are any records of what he was, I don't know, regretting or some mistakes he realized that he made.
yeah. I mean, there must have been for sure, because I think like in his last years on Saint Helena or Helen, I will have to research on that because
That's a really Swedish pronunciation. Helene.
yeah, Saint Helen, Saint
um,
yeah, he wrote like Saint Helena. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, he started to write some books.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
but for sure,
memoirs.
yeah, exactly. I think for sure that he had some regrets and some things that he like could think of that, I could have done that better
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
improved some stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, like it depends from which perspective you're looking at from it.
Hmm.
From which perspective you're looking at it. Because I didn't see him as a person, or at least my picture of Napoleon isn't the person that is seeking stability. He's more of a guy that, conquering. And I think the only way he would reach stability is if he would have conquered the entire world, which
Yeah.
would have be kind of ambitious, but yeah, uh, because it felt like he always was like, yeah, let's conquer, 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 and so on. Um,
Sure. All right. Any other points you want to bring up? Do you have any other?
I had one. I had one where while we were talking, I had one coming up. Um,
Okay.
yeah, you can go ahead with yours if you have one.
I just wanted to bring up some random ass fact.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
He was
Go.
actually a king of Italy, also.
He's a
Or
king of Italy.
yeah, he was. Uh, but now when I said it out loud, it was kind of stupid. It sounded stupid because if he was the emperor,
No, but the thing is that I think he was the emperor of the whole
but
empire,
like-
but
but
then
like,
he put like his brothers and family members like
also as kings and stuff.
kings.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, for sure. No, but like it's said here, like in 1805, he became king of Italy, and it's from the Napoleon.org website. So I don't know.
it just makes me think of Bernard Arnault
Yeah.
from the Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton. He created his own sort of empire, and now is his like I think it's his children that is having like very important positions in the company
Yeah.
and are directly like sort of reporting to him
Hmm.
together with some other CEOs of course. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and I think David Senner also did a very good job, sort of connecting Napoleon and his empire to different businesses and different companies and management and so on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. And also, during the founders episode, David Sandra said he actually. Well, whatever. In the beginning of one podcast, he read a, I think it's called an ex isn't it ex, I don't know, like a part of Rockefeller's biography where he was like talking about the Napoleon. But what I wanted to bring up is that also like Rockefeller said that if Napoleon would have wanted to become like a businessman, like in commerce or whatever, he would also like be the greatest at it. Uh, and one of the traits that Rockefeller apparently admired was just his really influential charisma, because he was really good at inspiring the people around him. What I
yeah,
have like heard. So yeah.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so
No, no, no. He was like a true leader, to be honest.
no,
That's at least that's one of the traits that I have like uh that that all of the sources have like given me of him.
yeah,
It's like yeah. Um and yeah.
for sure.
No, that like another point would be for me. Then I will just keep this short. Just his like war tactics and just his strategy. And it like when you think back at it, like he used to read a lot of books and a lot of historical books. And he was, I think it's even mentioned. I watched another video of him, of like some people telling about him, and he said that he was like a very smart kid. He was like really bright. Um, and so it's interesting how he managed to sort of create this new way of uh, fighting with his opponents. As you said,
The Blitz.
the blitz, exactly, which was basically a strategy of, so the enemies would come from like one side, attacking some parts of his army, right? And then he would unite other parts of his army coming from for example, the sides or other parts around the whole battlefield, and unite the whole army in the sort of middle and surrounding them basically.
Surround them. Okay.
Yeah, and surrounded them like really quick. And it was so interesting because it said that he wasn't fighting to get them to surrender, like sort of retreat. He was like when he was battling, he was like doing it to kill like every one of them.
All
And
right.
I think they managed to do that really well in the movie, or like showing that really well in the movie, because then you see, I think this was in one of the battles in Russia, where they are like above a sort of lake,
Yeah.
and the Russians are attacking, and then he's applying his sort of tactics, uh, and the Russians are eventually like realizing that, hey, we really need to retreat now because we're like, yeah,
On
this
water, on ice.
exactly, and this is not under control anymore because they are more than us. We're like, yeah, we are kind of surrounded. Anyway, they were like starting to retreat, and that's when he's like firing all the cannons and stuff to make like every one of them sort of. Do you remember that part
I remember, but
when he's
I
like,
remember I would what I recall is that when he started to attack with these what you call it, the
cannon?
cannons,
Yeah,
uh it was the cannons that made them realize like, oh fuck, we need to like we are battling on ice, on the water, because it was actually I think before that battle, I think, because it was the Russians they were battling, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
before that battle, I think actually Napoleon in the movie had a conversation with Alexander, I think.
Mhm.
And I don't know who he said it to. I don't think it was Alexander directly. He said it to somebody that the Russians are going to make a really big mistake, and they don't even know it. And then they show the battle, and I think the mistake that they didn't calculate was the place of the maybe
Of the battle, yeah.
maybe
Yeah, because the whole
which was
thing
the
was during
ice.
the winter, yes.
Yeah,
And the lake was frozen. Yeah, maybe it was then.
because I think the
Yeah.
tactic was to like get like the whole army on the lake.
Mm.
If yeah, I don't want to like sound too confident, but I think it was something like that, because what I recall is that it was the cannons that made them really like go like, oh fuck, to retreat. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. Yeah, maybe you're right. Like they were firing the cannons and then they realized that, hey, shit, we're on water actually. And then they're starting to, retreat. But the funny thing is that even though they started to retreat, like Napoleon soldiers still kept
Blasting.
firing at
Yeah,
them. Yeah. So that's the whole point I wanted to make. That he
yeah.
was like, yeah.
He was ruthless.
Yeah, he was fighting till the
Killed
last.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
I think even David Senra said that Napoleon and some of his like generals or like, yeah, some high status soldiers were like watching the battlefield, and there were like their enemies were like dying like dogs. And one of his men asked like, what do you think about it? And he was like, yeah, this looks great or amazing or something.
Okay.
And his soldiers answered like, no sir, this looks horrible. And then he said something like, yeah, remember that the enemy's dead body, there's a certain word for it.
Corpse.
Corpse, yeah, the enemy's corpse
Ah.
smells sweet or something like
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of yeah.
Yeah, actually, I remember that part.
Yeah.
So he said that. Uh, Meanwhile, when Napoleon saw a dog who was hurt,
Oh yeah, that's it.
he really like felt bad for the dog. But like when he was um riding with his horse, like passing like hundreds of dead bodies of his opponents or opposing army, he didn't really feel anything. So yeah.
Yeah. That's when he started asking himself like, what's wrong with me?
Now we're gonna like retell the whole podcast now.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And then he said,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but I mean, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, and there are so many details that we are
yeah,
missing out right now
for sure. But
because
I think
yeah, it would be almost impossible to have like a very, very, very detailed uh podcast.
yeah,
Too
and
short.
they're really long as well. So
Yeah.
all
Um,
right,
okay.
okay. Do you have any other points you want to bring up?
For now, I don't have any other points. I guess we will redo this episode sometime in the future, adding more details and maybe coming up with some new information, or certainly
Yeah,
coming up with more information. Uh, but yeah, I'm
for
good for
sure.
now.
Yeah.
How about you?
Um. Well, I could bring up some random point for sure, but I don't know if there's any point to it since we have already talked a pretty long time. uh now. So yeah, we'll probably take it another time. And I think as we learn more about these great people who have lived before us, we will just interconnect.
Yeah,
As like now we have like mentioned like Rockefeller and like other people, um, while we have been telling the story of Napoleon, and so yeah, yeah, I don't have anything.
yeah. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to today's episode about Napoleon. We
Yeah,
really hope you enjoyed it and got some new information about the history and, yeah, hopefully how to navigate life's spin.
for sure. And comment down below if you have some other information about Napoleon which we didn't bring up or maybe said wrong. Yeah, we look forward to hearing your comments. And yeah, so subscribe so we can grow together on this journey of knowledge and prosper, if that is the right word, but you know what I mean. Grow together. And yeah, until next time.
Adios.